Big news coming out of Mexico. The Sinaloa cartel is going after American tourists in Mexico. So apparently they put out a hit on Cash Patel. The federal government is messing with their money because they're stopping shipments coming into the United States, and they're raiding labs. And so the federal government's messing with their money. And so they're saying, we're going to go after Americans. Now, I've never, ever felt fearful in Mexico. Okay? But this is the Sinaloa cartel. Like, you know, like all that stuff, like the gangs in Chicago and the gangs in California, they don't got nothing on the cartel. Nothing. These guys are nuts, dude. The guys in the cartel are nuts. Stay out of Mexico, dude.
Breaking news. 2 MAGAs get fact-checked by the produce manager. This is great. This just happened just about 20 minutes ago. I was shopping in a grocery store here in the Fort Lauderdale area that's well known for its fresh produce. And as I was shopping for my items, I saw these 2 MAGAs. There were 2 guys in their 50s. I'm wearing their MAGA hats. And they were all crowing about how Trump was going to make America great again and how Trump was going to bring down prices and cut inflation and all these type things. But then they were complaining in the store about the prices of the fresh produce. And so I guess one of the managers or the fresh produce manager, somebody walked by. And so one of the MAGAs says to the manager in the store that they can't wait until January 20th, when Trump is going to lower the prices on goods because he all of a sudden becomes president. They think he magically can do this, just like Biden was the one who caused all the prices to go up just because he happened to be president. Complete untrue, but that's another story. And so the guy kind of looked at him and said, you know, sir, what do you mean? And he said, I don't believe that's going to be correct. And the produce manager says something back. He says, you do know that Trump has proposed to increase tariffs on Mexico by 25%. And many of our fresh vegetables and fruits all come from Mexico. You're going to be paying higher prices, sir, under this tariff proposed by Trump if it goes through. The prices won't go down because, and the guy goes, what? He said, Mexico's not going to pay for it. He says, no, sir, you're going to pay for it. We're going to pass those prices on to you because our importer is going to pass those prices on to us. You're going to pay more. And the two just looked at each other like they were in shock. These people are complete idiots. I mean, they are operating with burned out light bulbs. Love to hear from everybody. Love to hear from your thoughts. Love to hear from my Democrats and my MAGAs, my crazies and my cuckoos. Y'all are definitely not going to get what you thought you voted for. And lower prices, if these tariffs go through, oh, you're dreaming. You're dreaming. Keep smoking whatever you're smoking. Not going to be true. And I'm sure you'll try to find a way to blame it on Biden, even though all the problems that we had under inflation under Biden all came from Trump under his collapsed economy, 15% unemployment because of the COVID pandemic and because of the pipeline shutdown, all because of Trump's poor handling of things. But you all can't connect the dots. Love it, love it, love it. You're going to love these prices if these tariffs go through. Thank you, Trump. Nothing like having an orange Jesus around.
Before y'all go out here and take y'all little vacations out in these Mexican waters and Caribbean waters and European waters or wherever little waters and oceans y'all finna go to, I just want y'all to know y'all better be real careful, because if y'all boat flip over, what if the little Coast Guard people tell you, you know what, we don't want none of y'all because we don't want no foreign people in our land, build a border. Like, you know how crazy that sound? You a human being out here about to pass away, right? And you have no one to rescue you. And then you have someone that they're just like, nope, I don't like the way you look. That's pretty much what America is doing to all of these immigrants, basically. Like, these people is really running away from bad stuff in their own homes, right? And you guys are like, oh, why don't they just stay there and fix it? How are they going to stay there and fight against the cartel? I want you to try to fight against the cartel. I want you to try to fight against 2 people trying to come jump you. You can't. Like, you know what I'm saying? So they're just like, you know what, let me get my kids and move on to somewhere better or whatever, right? Then they're going to come over here and take our jobs. So you mean to tell me someone's fleeing their country for a better lifestyle for them and their family, they're going to come get a job, and that's a terrible thing? That's criminal? Like, I'm just so confused, bruh. If anything, it shows me that they have will and grit and resistance. This is exactly what we need in America. These are Americans. That's American values. If you ask me, these people is willing to do whatever, bro. They're going to take a boat to get here. They're going to make tunnels to get here, bro. That is very American to me, bro. That means you ain't going to stop at nothing, bro. That's American to me. I think they cool with me. Bro, they cool with me. They cool with you?
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, Africans. I hope you're faring well where you are, and if you ain't faring well, please fare well where you are. So there is a Mexican proverb that says, "He who builds a wall forgets that even the wind crosses the borders," right? You can't tame the wind. It will always cross to the other side. And also, you can't build a huge wall that will go past space. There will always be a room that you can't reach, right? So you've heard that Mexicans are no longer welcomed. Not Mexicans, white people are no longer welcomed in Mexico. And you can tell by this time that indeed the speech that Donald Trump was making, the walls he was building, not just with steel, but with his speech, has created a catastrophic chain of events that is now affecting the very innocent people that the laws is supposed to protect, right? So when Donald Trump left America, or rather when Donald Trump left being a citizen to being a president, right? The first term that he became the president, many people assumed that his harsh immigration legacy would fade with him, right? But he came back, and years later, right now that he is the president, his ideas echo, right? They travel south of America, which is Mexico. It's carried not just by politics, it is carried by people, you see. Across Mexico's resort towns and the border cities, a subtle shift has taken place. American visitors, once embraced with warmth, now encounter an undercurrent of distance, even with also quiet resentment, right? It is not hostility in the violent sense. No, it ain't that way. No open conflict, no explicit rejection. It is the restrained chill of a nation that remembers, right? So without further ado, I want us to dive into this video, listen to them. I shall get back by the end of it, of course, where we shall also have a deep, critical analysis. Let's dive in.
If you ever wonder how the mustache man got away with all of the things that he did, just take a look at Donald Trump today.
So there's a white woman's video who's gone viral talking about going to Mexico to get dental work.
So I just got the quote from the dentist in Mexico I've been looking to go see because, no offense to my current dentist in the United States, I love him. He does a really great job. And I wish I could go to him. I just can't afford dental care in the United States.
And while there were a ton of comments and people talking about the medical care system and kikiing with her in the comments, my spidey senses told me to dig a little deeper. And here's what I found.
What a beautiful morning. So grateful that Trump got in office. Life is going to be so much easier again.
Question. If it's so much easier, why can't you go to the dentist? Hold that thought.
And yes, I'm a woman for Trump. Guess what? There's like way more people in America that wanted Trump yesterday, so I don't even look like a piece of shit anymore. Thank you to the 70-something million people that voted for Trump yesterday. You just validated all of my videos where people shat on me in my comments because I'm a woman voting for Trump. Thank you for that. So yeah, we're gonna have a party later, and I told you so.
What is so interesting to me is there are so many people like her that uphold the values of anti-immigration, yet go with their teeth fixed. I hope you get stopped at the border. Root canal these.
Are you a MAGA follower? Please do not come to Mexico. Do not come to Cancun. Do not come to Puerto Vallarta or Acapulco. Stay in the United States. Eat your Taco Bells. Eat your burritos. Eat your whatever you got back home. In Mexico, we already know that MAGA people hate Mexicans. We already know that you support Donald Trump, who is a really bad guy for Mexicans. They are putting our people in prisons. They are attacking our people. They are disappearing little children, separating families. We don't like MAGA people here in Mexico. And if you come, please do not bring your orange hat saying MAGA. Do not come with your shirt saying MAGA, because I've seen cases where MAGAs have been attacked by Mexicans in Cancun. At least they get knocked on their head, or at least they insult them, and we are right. We know you hate us in the United States, so why are you gonna come to Cancun with your offending us with your MAGA shirts or hats? Stay in the United States, you're better there. Why do you come to Cancun? Why do you come to Mexico? If you don't like us, stay there.
The Sinaloa Sea has stated that they're going to be going after American tourists at all these popular locations because they're not happy with the raids that have been going on with their labs and all their... The Sinaloa Sea used to be the most powerfulest organized crime in the world. Now it's in second place right now because the Jalisco one is on top right now. According to reports in Baja California, they found 2 banners that stated, hey, this is what's going to be going on. FBI director, this message is for you as well. And it was signed by Los Chapitos. 2 of the spots that were addressed were Cabo and Tulum. But just to be on the safe side, just be very careful when you're out there at those popular tourist spots. The banner also stated that starting Sunday is when they're going to start taking action with these American citizens. So just have some precaution if you're traveling in these popular spots. Keep your eyes open and your surroundings. And you already know that when they leave these notes in Mexico, they ain't playing around. Let me know what you guys think about all this down below in the comments. And like always, don't forget to follow for more viral news.
Stop what you're doing. If you're heading to Riviera Maya or Cancun area, don't go because it's dangerous to American tourists. Well, now that I got your attention, I've been seeing multiple videos of that, including someone that actually is canceling their honeymoon to Secrets Acumel due to this. And my name is Bree. I own a travel agency. I happen to travel to Mexico probably every 6 weeks, usually by myself, fly in and out solo. I was just there about 2 weeks ago, and I'm telling you, this fear-mongering on this app needs to stop. Not only is it extremely dangerous, causing fear in people that should not even be there, you're shining such a bad light on such a beautiful tourism destination. When I say beautiful, it is beautiful. And of course, there's bad incidents that happen literally everywhere. But putting out that Americans should not travel to Riviera Maya and Cancun due to violence against them is the most absurd thing that I've heard. But anyway, I just booked my flight back for me and my husband to go without our kids. That tells you how dangerous it is. We'll be there in November.
Cartel banners with threats directed at U.S. citizens are now popping up around Mexico. Now, they did find one of these banners in Cabo, and what it said is that they're going to start targeting U.S. citizens in tourist areas. And also on the banner, it began to say that they're going to go after U.S. citizens to show the U.S. how the cartel fights a war. And even the FBI director already made a statement on this, saying that U.S. citizens should be cautious over in Mexico, but also they feel that the cartel is retaliating for maybe recent DEA raids and seizures of some of their labs. Now, as far as other parts across Mexico, none of the major cities like Cancun or, say, Mexico City have had these banners pop up, just really around Cabo or some of the other rural areas. But that doesn't mean that certain banners might start popping up more. It could get to the point with how the U.S. is treating Mexico that Mexico really doesn't like the U.S. anymore. And it really does suck because Mexico's a really nice country. I mean, I love the beaches there. I love hanging out there. I've been there plenty of times. So now hopefully these banners are just AI or something and it's really not real, because this would be very unfortunate. But you can go look up these banners online if you want. I'm not going to post them here. But let me know what you all think about it. Let me know down in the comments.
Pete Hegseth was Secretary of Defense. Pete Hegseth was on Fox News this morning, basically saying that strikes against Mexico are on the table.
They're terrorist organizations. And if you find that, and we know if there's Al-Qaeda, we're going to hit them. I don't care if you're in Somalia, Sudan, or in Syria, if we find that they continue to fire at our border patrol and they continue to put fentanyl into our country, as the Secretary of Defense, are you permitted now to go after them in Mexico or wherever they are?
Brian, I don't want to get ahead of the president, and I won't. That's ultimately going to be his decision. But let me be clear, all options will be on the table. If we're dealing with what are designated to be foreign terrorist organizations who are specifically targeting Americans on our border, and we're finally securing our border. We've been securing other people's border for a very long time. The military is shifting toward an understanding of homeland defense on our sovereign territorial border. That is something we will do and do robust.
They've been talking about war with Mexico for a long time, but I know a lot of people voted for Trump because he claimed to be the peace president, that he was going to bring peace back to the world, which, like, I don't know what level of delusion you had to be to believe that, but that's not what's happening. Instead, we're getting a tariff war on all of our allies that starts this weekend, by the way, so a lot of things come from Mexico and Canada, so you might want to go grocery shopping today, because shit is about to get expensive. We also just get mass firing of all federal workers whose jobs are to keep us safe. We've got planes crashing into military helicopters for the first time in a freaking generation. And we've got DEI hires in the administration with no experience in leading, running around acting like a bunch of toddlers in charge of the United States. We've got purges of federal employees. We've got investigations against PBS and NPR. We've got tech billionaires settling for millions, $25 million. Meta just paid Trump to settle a lawsuit because they took him off the platform after January 6th. We've got January 6th insurrectionists running around on the street getting rearrested for being pedophiles. And yesterday, I saw the gas near my house was almost at $4. So that's super cool. And eggs are almost impossible to find because of bird flu, and Trump has directed the CDC to not talk about it, and we are not involved in the WHO anymore, so when bird flu goes full pandemic, we're all going to suffer. But Trump will just say it was Biden and DEI chickens that did it. I guess we made it through 2 weeks of Trump's presidency. Well, not all Americans made it through, but how many more will we lose next week due to Trump's DEI hires and incompetence at the very tippy top?
So the president of Mexico has sent in Mexican firefighters to assist with the rescue efforts of the flood victims of Central Texas. After all the hate, after all the disgusting things that this government has been doing to Mexicans with the ICE deportations and alligator Alcatraz and all of these horrible things that they're doing, Mexico is showing humanity. Wow. Why can't people just sit down and talk without the greed? Shout out to Madam President, Madam Señorita Presidente. Thank you for showing some type of humanity, because Trump administration don't have a lick of humanity in their bones unless you're rich. Oh, and white.
So Mexico's president has officially made a statement and essentially made it clear that she is not in support of these mass deportations. As a matter of fact, she believes that those who fled her country in order to break into the United States have the right to stay here. Let's unpack that for a second. So the president of the country that people are leaving in droves in order to break into another country believes that she has the right to speak on the invasions that we have to deal with. These are her people, mind you, right? And so if Mexico is such a great country, if you believe that you are creating a Mexico that people would want to live in, why would you endorse or essentially support your people in leaving your country and breaking into another.
So yesterday I posted a video about how illegals are waving their flags during protests. I never specified exactly what flag, but people are going off about Mexico specifically and saying that this is their land and that it was stolen from them. First of all, the stolen land was not only paid for, but the United States ate up over $3 million worth of debt that Mexico owed to them. So the United States doesn't owe you anything, and I'm not going to be ignorant like you and say, oh, well, technically you guys owe us because the debt was settled, so we move on. Second of all, the Mexico was stolen, immigrants made this country excuse is played out. Let's be honest, if you had to go back to the times where the land was yours, not only would you owe the US, but with all the technologies and privileges that you have now, you wouldn't be able to survive, regardless if you live in the US or Mexico. And you would be complaining a hell of a lot more than you do now. Third of all, laws are laws. There are laws protecting you, whether you're documented or not, from people walking into your house and kicking you out. Because laws establish order. If those laws didn't exist, you would be pretty upset if somebody walked into your house and kicked you out and you couldn't do anything about it. You do not get to pick and choose what laws you want to follow while taking all the benefits of a country that is not yours in 2025. That's it. Good talk.
It's crazy how the people that hate America refuse to leave it. The same people that want to defund the police will be the first ones to call the police when they're in danger. The same ones that shout freedom of speech, but yet cancel you if you have freedom of speech. Want everybody to accept them, but won't accept you. They demand your respect for their choices, but they do not want to respect our choices. They want to show love to every race other than white people. People who believe a bald eagle's egg is more important than a child in the womb. People who are against reading the Bible at school, but are not against having drag queens come and teach our kids a lesson. Will burn the American flag every chance that they get, but will refuse to go to another country because they hate this one so much. Who are willing to put every other nation first while we're last. Who will blindly follow left-wing media outlets rather than hearing both sides of it and then making a decision for themselves. Maybe it is time for people to visit other countries. Maybe it is time for you to maybe live in Mexico for a little bit. Maybe it is important for you to maybe move to Iran for a couple of months, or Iraq, or move to places that you're so willing to defend because it's so horrible here in the United States. That's one of the reasons why we are one of the most trafficked nations in the world, with almost every single nation with a nationality within our borders. But hey, I guess America sucks. So let's live in it. But let me know what you think in the comments section. Don't forget to hit that follow button for your daily updates.
All I gotta say is, if you're American, very pale American, I hope you don't have plans for spring break in Mexico, because there's a lot of people that are mad right now. And among other things, you wouldn't want them spitting in your food. Or your drink. At those all-inclusives in Cancun.
Repeat after me. When you elect psychopaths, people die. 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 When you elect psychopaths to own the lives, children float down the river.
I've been in Mexico for a week. This is like my 7th time in Mexico, and we come to Cancun, which is like going to Orlando, right? Everyone in our resort is Mexican, but everyone speaks English, and it's like resort after resort after resort. And our resort is across the street from a mall that has like a Tiffany and a Tory Burch and a Prada. So it's not like super authentic Mexico. But while I'm here, you know, you can kind of tell who's who among the Americans, and I'm surrounded by white people here. And I will say that I have not seen a MAGA hat. I did not see a MAGA hat in the Albany airport, the Baltimore airport. I have not seen a MAGA hat here. Thank God. But you kind of can tell, right? Who's who. There's just a vibe. There's an aura. There's an air about some people. And I just find it super ballsy for people who voted for fascist, Fanta, whatever. I find it interesting that people will cast their vote for that and that ideology, and then like come here to eat guacamole and drink margaritas and buy cheap silver. Like all of a sudden they're not scared anymore. They're not worried about rapists and murderers. Like make it make sense.
Now, between 2017 and 2020, the Trump administration has deported hundreds of thousands of Mexicans and Central American immigrants and separated families at the border under the zero tolerance policy, right? The images of crying children in detention centers were not easily forgotten. You see, Mexico bore the emotional and social cost of those policies. Deported individuals, many of whom have lived in the USA for decades, were returned abruptly to towns they no longer recognized. Communities near the border absorbed trauma like watching the US rhetoric label their people as criminals and invaders. You see, that wound did not vanish with the new president. It crawled quietly in a collective memory. And now, as American travelers are seeking to go to Mexico to visit the beaches, you know, to eat the food and to get the warmth from the people, they find themselves walking into the memory of hurting, right? The memory of forgotten or rather silenced beef, right? So tourism remains one of Mexico's most profitable industries, and locals still depend on it. Yet many report a change in attitude towards US visitors. This politeness remains, but the warmth has thinned. For years, the cross-border relationship was defined by imbalance. Americans came south freely for leisure. Mexicans went north for labor and often faced suspicion or deportation, right? So Trump's policies exaggerated that divide, turning the Mexican migrant into a political enemy while protecting the American traveler as a consumer. Now the reversal carries a symbolic power. Yeah, that's happening. So the same nation that once built barriers finds its citizens walking into emotional ones. It is not that we hate Americans. A tour guide in Mexico, a place called Cazaca or Oaxaca, said, it's just that we remember what their government said and did to us, right? So what is a deep, let's have a deeper meaning. Let's have a deeper understanding of what is being portrayed here, right? So critical deconstruction reveals that what is happening in Mexico is more than a cultural reaction. It is a restructuring of moral geography. You see, Trump's wall, whether built in steel or in speech, was not just about immigration control. It represented a hierarchy, a belief that one nation's fear could justify another's humiliation, right? See, the rhetoric reduced human beings to categories. We had the legal and the illegal, the wanted and the unwanted. Now that some hierarchy is unraveling, when Americans are met with suspicion or coolness abroad, they face the ideological reflection of their own government's past behaviors. The physical wall may stand on US soil, but the emotional wall now stretches into the Mexican hearts, right? So hospitality is never apolitical, right? So I'm speaking about the reaction Americans are getting. Remember, you can never legislate the human heart, right? You can never place hospitality as a form of politics or as a constitution. You can't force people, I want you to be hospitable to them. No, it's a matter of the heart, and you can't govern the heart. Only God can govern the heart. So God and Jesus Christ, only them can govern the heart in a positive way. So hospitality is never apolitical. Get that point. So to welcome someone is to acknowledge mutual respect. To withdraw warmth is to express moral memory. You see, during Trump's presidency, America's denial of hospitality to immigrants, or rather to migrants, became one of the most striking moral ruptures in recent history. Children were locked in cages while political crowds cheered promises to keep them out. Today, Mexico's restraint towards American tourists function as quiet justice, not revenge, but reminder. The border of humanity, once crossed by cruelty, has returned as conscience, right? So I want us also to look at the tourist as a symbol of something. So in the critical terms, the tourist is the embodiment of privilege, free movement without fear. Mexican visitors often enjoy a freedom their Mexican counterparts were denied for years. But the Trump's era changed that symbol. The American traveler no longer represents curiosity and exploration. To many, they symbolize the face of a power that humiliated others while preaching liberty. This change is subtle but powerful. It has turned the act of travel itself into a moral encounter. Every conversation between a local vendor and an American tourist now carries history beneath it. A question unspoken. Do you see us now? Right? So, there's also a narrative that the Western media is giving, and we also have the myth of innocence. See, much of the US media still frames Trump's immigration record as a domestic controversy, an issue of partnership rather than humanity. But for Mexicans, those policies were never abstract. They were alive. When Americans visit Mexico today, they are often unaware of how deeply those events reshaped perception. To claim I don't vote for Trump or it wasn't me may be true individually, but in the collective sense, or rather in the collective memory, this is rarely distinguished between personal innocence and national identity. The myth of innocence is the idea that average Americans bears no responsibility for government cruelty, collapses in the face of shared history. Mexico's restraint is this. In the sense, a social reckoning. Okay, Mexico's restraint is, in this sense, a social reckoning with that myth, the myth of innocence, right? So, one thing we need to understand is that we need to have a path of reconciliation, right? So, there remains room for healing. It's still available. Many Mexicans distinguish clearly between Trump's policies and the American peoples themselves. Yet, as analysts note, acknowledgement is the first step. True reconciliation begins when travelers understand the weight of the passports they carry. Mexico's quiet resistance is not a closing of doors, but an invitation for honesty. If America's approach if Americans approach their southern neighbor with humility, to listen rather than to assume, to understand rather than to consume, their bridges can be rebuilt. After all, the proverb still holds. He who builds a wall forgets that even the wind crosses borders. And in Mexico, that wind still blows, carrying memory, pain, and perhaps the faint possibility of forgiveness. Yes, this is EFK Original Documentaries. You like my work, you like what I do, I'll surely appreciate. Subscribe. Yeah, and see you in the next one.